What if I told you that the most powerful financial decision you could make this year has nothing to do with the stock market, nothing to do with crypto, and nothing to do with any investment your financial advisor has ever mentioned? What if the real wealth, the kind that builds quietly and then pays you for the rest of your life, was sitting in the ground right now, waiting for someone smart enough to plant it? I'm talking about trees, not timber, not Christmas trees, not the ornamental maple in your neighbor's front yard. I'm talking about rare, high-value trees that produce crops, extracts, oils, and materials that industries are desperately hunting for. Trees that, once established, require almost nothing from you but keep generating income year after year, decade after decade. Most people think of trees as scenery. Smart people think of them as income streams that compound over time. And the ones who figured this out early, they're not talking about it. They're just quietly collecting checks while everyone else is grinding away at something that stops paying the moment they stop working. Today, I'm revealing 14 rare trees you can plant once and profit from for decades. Tree number 6 on this list produces an oil that luxury cosmetic companies pay more per ounce than silver. And tree number 11 produces a fruit so rare that a single mature specimen can generate over $10,000 in a single harvest season. But before we go any further, hit that subscribe button right now and drop a comment telling me, do you already have land, or are you starting from scratch? I read every single comment and I genuinely want to know where you're starting from. All right, let's get into it. Tree number 1. Paulownia, the fastest-growing timber tree on the planet. Let's start with something that sounds almost impossible. A hardwood tree that reaches harvestable size in just 7 to 10 years. Most hardwoods take 40, 50, even 100 years. Paulownia tomentosa and its cultivated varieties are changing everything that farmers and landowners thought they knew about timber investment. The wood sells for $15 to $30 per board foot for premium grades. It's lightweight, stronger than many heavier hardwoods, and naturally resistant to moisture and warping. Japanese furniture makers have prized it for centuries. The instrument industry uses it for guitar bodies and soundboards. And the construction industry is starting to pay serious attention. Here's the business angle that makes this tree remarkable. Paulownia is also a coppice crop, meaning when you cut it down, it regrows from the stump, often even faster than the first time. You're not replanting. You're not starting over. The root system is already established, and it pushes new growth with incredible speed. One planting, multiple harvests, decade after decade. And the leaves. Don't overlook the leaves. Paulownia leaves are enormous, high in protein, and are being studied as a livestock feed supplement. Some growers are generating income from the leaves while the timber matures. You're not waiting and doing nothing. You're building multiple income layers from a single tree. Think of Paulownia as the tree that destroys the biggest excuse people make about tree farming: that it takes too long to matter. Tree number 2. Argan, liquid gold from a desert survivor. If you've bought any premium skincare product in the last 10 years, you've almost certainly seen argan oil on the ingredient list. Argania spinosa produces an oil that sells for $300 to $600 per liter at wholesale, and the global market for it is worth billions and still growing. Here's the opportunity hiding inside those numbers. Almost all of the world's argan oil currently comes from a single region in Morocco. The entire global supply of one of the most in-demand cosmetic ingredients on Earth depends on one relatively small geographic area. That's not a stable supply chain. That's a vulnerability. And smart growers in suitable climates, parts of California, Arizona, Texas, and the Gulf Coast, are beginning to recognize exactly what that means. Argan trees are incredibly long-lived. Some specimens are over 200 years old and still producing. Once established, they require minimal water, minimal care, and produce consistently for generations. You're not just planting for yourself. You're planting something your children and grandchildren will still be harvesting. The cosmetics industry is not slowing down. The demand for natural, plant-based ingredients is accelerating, and Argan sits at the top of that category. Premium, proven, and perpetually in demand. Think of the Argan tree as the investment that keeps appreciating long after you're gone. Tree number 3. Sandalwood, the most expensive wood in the world by weight. Let's talk about the tree that produces wood so valuable it's been used as currency, burned as sacred incense, and carved into objects that sell for thousands of dollars. True sandalwood, Santalum album and its close relatives, sells for $80 to $150 per kilogram for the heartwood. The essential oil derived from that heartwood sells for significantly more. The global sandalwood market is enormous and deeply undersupplied. Wild sandalwood in India, the traditional source, is now a protected species. Harvesting restrictions have created a supply crisis that is driving prices higher every year. Australia recognized this opportunity decades ago and built a commercial sandalwood industry that now generates hundreds of millions of dollars annually. Here's the critical thing to understand about sandalwood. It's a hemiparasite, meaning it draws some of its nutrition from the root systems of neighboring trees. That sounds complicated, but it's actually manageable. You plant companion trees alongside it, and the sandalwood does what it does naturally. The system works. Australian growers have proven it at scale. The timeline is real. Sandalwood takes 15 to 20 years to develop the aromatic heartwood that commands premium prices. But here's the framing that changes everything. You're not waiting 20 years for a payday. You're building an asset that grows more valuable every single year it stands, in a market where supply keeps shrinking while demand keeps climbing. The perfume industry, the luxury cosmetics industry, the sacred incense market, they all need sandalwood. And there is not enough of it. That equation only moves in one direction. Tree number 4. Black walnut. The American hardwood hiding a fortune. Black walnut is one of those trees that most Americans walk past without realizing they're looking at serious money. Juglans nigra produces one of the most valuable hardwoods in North America. Premium veneer-grade black walnut logs sell for $1,000 to over $10,000 per log depending on size, straightness, and figure. Single exceptional trees have sold for more than $20,000 at auction. But the timber is only part of the story. Black walnut hulls are used in industrial applications, in natural dyes, and in herbal supplements. The nuts themselves sell for $15 to $25 per pound for high-quality hand-harvested product. You're looking at a tree that produces multiple revenue streams simultaneously, nuts every fall while the timber value compounds underneath you. Black walnut grows across a huge portion of the eastern and central United States. It grows in conditions where other high-value trees struggle. And unlike exotic imports, there's an established market infrastructure already in place. Lumber mills, veneer buyers, nut processors, they're all already looking for quality black walnut. The patient grower's advantage here is enormous. Every year a well-grown black walnut tree stands, its value increases. You're not just growing a crop. You're growing an appreciating asset that also throws off annual income while it matures. Think of black walnut as the tree that rewards patience with compounding wealth, the same way the best investments always do. Tree number 5. Moringa. The tree that never stops giving. We touched on moringa leaves in another context before, but when you understand the full picture of what a mature moringa tree produces, you realize this isn't just a crop. It's a perpetual income machine. Moringa oleifera produces leaves that sell for $20 to $40 per pound dried, seeds that sell for $10 to $20 per pound, and an oil pressed from those seeds that commands $50 to $100 per liter in premium markets. That's 3 separate revenue streams from a single tree. And here's what makes it almost unfair. Moringa grows so fast in warm climates that you can harvest leaves within 6 months of planting. You're not waiting years for your first dollar. You're generating income almost immediately while the tree continues to mature and increase its production capacity. The supplement industry is consuming moringa faster than domestic growers can supply it. Most of what's on store shelves right now was grown overseas, shipped across oceans, and processed in facilities you know nothing about. Premium wellness brands are actively searching for domestic suppliers who can offer consistency, transparency, and quality certification. That market is wide open. Think of moringa as the rare combination of fast returns and long-term compounding, the tree that pays you while you wait for everything else on this list to mature. Tree number 6. Oud or Agarwood, the tree that produces the most expensive natural material on Earth. Stop whatever you're thinking and pay attention to this one. Agarwood, the resinous-infected heartwood of Aquilaria trees, sells for $10,000 to $100,000 per kilogram for the highest grades. The essential oil, pure oud, sells for more per ounce than gold. This is not an exaggeration. This is the current market reality. Here's how it works. When an Aquilaria tree is infected by a specific mold, it produces a dark, incredibly aromatic resin in its heartwood as a defense response. That resin is Agarwood. It's been prized for thousands of years in Middle Eastern perfumery, in Japanese incense ceremonies, and in traditional medicine across Asia. The demand is ancient, deeply cultural, and completely inelastic to price. Wild Agarwood trees have been harvested nearly to extinction across Southeast Asia. The supply of wild material is essentially gone. What remains is being replaced by cultivated trees, and growers who establish Aquilaria plantations today are positioning themselves at the ground floor of a market that will only tighten over the coming decades. The cultivation method involves deliberately inoculating trees with the infection that triggers resin production. The trees need 8 to 15 years to develop commercial-grade material. But the economics are so extreme that even a small number of mature trees represents life-changing wealth. This is the tree that makes every other high-value crop look ordinary by comparison. 1 acre of mature agarwood, properly harvested and processed, can generate more income than most people earn in a lifetime. Think of Agarwood as the tree that redefines what's possible when you combine patience with knowledge that almost nobody else has. Tree number 7. Pawpaw, America's forgotten tropical fruit. Here's a story that should make every American grower angry and excited at the same time. The pawpaw, Asimina triloba, is the largest edible fruit native to North America. It tastes like a cross between a mango, a banana, and a vanilla custard. It grows wild from Nebraska to the Atlantic coast, and almost nobody is farming it commercially. Fresh pawpaws sell for $5 to $10 per pound at farmers markets. In cities where food culture is sophisticated, chefs are paying $15 to $20 per pound for consistent quality supply. The fruit doesn't ship well, which means it can't be imported from distant sources. That's not a weakness. That's a built-in competitive moat for local growers. Here's why the opportunity is so extraordinary right now. Consumer interest in pawpaws is exploding. Food writers are calling it the next big American fruit. Craft breweries are making pawpaw ales. Artisan ice cream makers are hunting for reliable supply. Farm-to-table restaurants want the story as much as the fruit. And the number of commercial growers is still almost zero. Pawpaw trees begin producing in 3 to 5 years from grafted specimens. Once established, they're incredibly low maintenance, naturally resistant to most pests, requiring no pesticides, and they produce abundantly for decades. The tree practically grows itself while the market around it heats up. Think of pawpaw as the sleeping giant of American agriculture. A world-class fruit that's been ignored for a century and is finally waking up to the market it deserves. Tree number 8. Elderberry, the immune support industry's most wanted ingredient. The elderberry market has done something remarkable in the last decade. It went from folk remedy to mainstream supplement staple in almost no time at all. Sambucus nigra berries now sell for $5 to $15 per pound fresh and significantly more when processed into syrup, extract, or powder. And demand from the natural health industry keeps accelerating every single cold and flu season. Here's the business reality that makes elderberry so attractive. The supplement industry has validated elderberry with actual clinical research. This isn't just a trend-riding wellness hype. There's scientific credibility behind it now, which means the market has a foundation that won't collapse when the next superfood takes the spotlight. Elderberry shrubs begin producing in their second year and reach full production by year 4 or 5. They're cold-hardy, adaptable to a wide range of soils, and once established they spread naturally, creating an expanding productive patch that requires minimal ongoing investment. The value-added opportunity here is enormous. Growers who process their own berries into syrup are selling direct to consumer for $20 to $40 per bottle. You're not just selling a raw ingredient. You're building a brand around a product with proven demand and loyal customers who buy repeatedly every single year. And here's the angle most growers miss entirely. Elderflowers, the blossoms that appear before the berries, sell to craft distillers, specialty food producers, and high-end cocktail bars for significant premiums. You're harvesting income twice from the same plant before the berries even set. Think of elderberry as the crop that proves the supplement industry's appetite for quality domestic ingredients is far larger than the current supply can satisfy. Tree number 9. Olive. Ancient wealth that still works in modern markets. The olive tree has been generating wealth for human civilizations for 6,000 years. Olea europea is not a trend. It's not a fad. It is one of the most proven income-producing trees in the history of agriculture. And in North America, it is dramatically underutilized. Premium extra virgin olive oil sells for $30 to $80 per liter at the retail level. Certified domestic olive oil, grown and pressed in the United States, commands even higher prices because consumers are increasingly aware that imported olive oil is frequently adulterated, mislabeled, and far less fresh than what they're paying for. The domestic premium is real, and it's growing. Olive trees begin producing commercially in 5 to 8 years. But here is what separates the olive from almost every other tree on this list. A well-maintained olive tree can produce for over 500 years. The oldest cultivated olive trees in the Mediterranean are still producing fruit. You are not planting for a decade. You are planting for generations. The market for premium domestic olive oil is expanding fast. California's olive oil industry has proven the model works at scale. But Texas, Georgia, the Pacific Northwest, and parts of the South all have suitable growing conditions that remain almost completely untapped. Think of the olive tree as the investment that laughs at time horizons. The tree that was generating wealth before your country existed and will still be generating it long after you're gone. Tree number 10. Hickory, the undervalued American hardwood with a cult following. Most people know hickory from barbecue smoke and tool handles. What most people don't know is that premium hickory lumber sells for $8 to $15 per board foot. Hickory nuts sell for $10 to $20 per pound at specialty markets, and hickory smoked products command some of the highest premiums in the artisan food industry. Carya species, particularly shagbark and shellbark hickory, produce nuts with a rich, complex flavor that pecan and walnut growers simply cannot replicate. Specialty food producers, artisan confectioners, and high-end chefs seek them out and find them almost impossible to source consistently. That supply gap is your opportunity. Hickory is a slow-growing tree by most standards, taking 15 to 20 years to reach significant nut production. But the timber value building underneath those annual nut harvests means you're compounding two separate assets simultaneously. The nuts pay you annually. The timber value grows silently in the background. And the smoked wood market is something most growers never consider. Hickory smoking chunks and chips sell for $5 to $10 per pound to barbecue enthusiasts. Prunings and small-diameter wood that would otherwise be waste material become a marketable product with almost zero additional cost to produce. Think of hickory as the tree that teaches you to find income in places everyone else calls byproducts. Tree number 11. Kaffir lime. The citrus tree worth 10 times its weight in ordinary fruit. Most people think of citrus and picture orange groves stretching across Florida, massive industrial operations competing on volume and razor-thin margins. Kaffir lime is the exact opposite of that picture. Citrus hystrix produces leaves and fruit zest that sell for $20 to $40 per pound dried, and fresh leaves command $15 to $25 per pound at restaurant supply markets. A single mature tree in the right market can generate over $10,000 in a single harvest season. Here's why the numbers work so dramatically in your favor. Kaffir lime leaves are irreplaceable in Thai, Indonesian, and Malaysian cooking. There is no substitute. No other ingredient replicates that intensely floral, citrusy, complex flavor that Southeast Asian cuisine depends on. And as those cuisines have moved from ethnic enclaves into mainstream fine dining, the demand for authentic ingredients has followed. The supply situation is almost comically favorable for growers. Most Kaffir lime leaves sold in the United States are imported, dried, and largely flavorless compared to fresh. Chefs who have worked with fresh Kaffir lime leaves will pay almost anything to maintain that supply. You become not just a vendor, but a critical partner in their kitchen operation. Kaffir lime trees are compact enough to grow in large containers, which means growers in colder climates can move them indoors during winter and continue producing year-round. You're not limited by geography the way most tree crops demand. You're limited only by your willingness to manage the process. Think of Kaffir lime as the tree that proves the most profitable crops are almost always the ones that serve passionate, knowledgeable customers who understand exactly what they're paying for and why it's worth every dollar. Tree number 12. Chestnut. The forgotten staple crop making a stunning comeback. A century ago, the American chestnut was one of the most important food trees on the entire continent. Billions of trees fed wildlife, fed people, and generated income for rural communities across the eastern United States. Then chestnut blight arrived and erased almost all of them within decades. That loss created a vacuum in the market that has never been filled. Chinese and European chestnut varieties, Castanea mollissima and Castanea sativa, stepped into that vacuum, and growers who planted them early are now reaping extraordinary rewards. Fresh chestnuts sell for $4 to $8 per pound at farmers markets. Wholesale to restaurants and specialty food stores runs $3 to $5 per pound. And the holiday season demand creates price spikes that make the annual harvest feel like a bonus payday on top of an already profitable crop. Here's what makes chestnut particularly exciting from a strategic standpoint. The American Chestnut Restoration Program, led by the American Chestnut Foundation, is working to reintroduce blight-resistant American chestnuts to their native range. Growers who establish chestnut orchards now are positioning themselves perfectly to transition to restored American varieties as they become commercially available, capturing both current profits and future market positioning in a single investment. Chestnut trees begin producing in 3 to 5 years from grafted stock. They're adaptable, cold-hardy, and thrive on marginal land that other crops struggle with. You don't need prime farmland. You need land and patience, and the knowledge that almost nobody else is growing chestnuts at commercial scale in North America right now. Think of chestnut as the crop that history took away from America and that smart growers today have the opportunity to bring back, profitably, at exactly the right moment. Tree number 13. Mesquite. The desert tree quietly generating serious money. If you live in the American Southwest and you've been looking at mesquite as a nuisance, a thorny invasive that takes over pastures and breaks equipment, you've been looking at a gold mine from the wrong angle. Prosopis species produce pods, wood, and flower that are generating remarkable income for growers who understand what they actually have. Mesquite flour, ground from the dried seed pods, sells for $10 to $20 per pound in the natural food market. It's naturally sweet, high in protein, low on the glycemic index, and deeply tied to the growing interest in indigenous and ancestral foods. Specialty bakeries, paleo diet followers, and health food stores are all hunting for consistent domestic supply and finding almost none. The wood tells an equally compelling story. Mesquite hardwood is one of the most prized smoking woods in barbecue culture. Chunks and chips sell for $6 to $12 per pound. Premium mesquite charcoal commands $3 to $5 per pound at retail. And the lumber, dense, beautifully figured, and extraordinarily hard, sells to woodworkers and furniture makers who treat it like the exotic hardwood it genuinely is. Here's the angle that most people in mesquite territory completely miss. These trees are already established on millions of acres across Texas, New Mexico, Arizona, and California. The capital investment has already been made by nature. The trees are already there. The opportunity is in harvesting, processing, and connecting that existing resource to markets that are actively looking for it. Think of mesquite as the tree that turns a rancher's frustration into a food producer's fortune. The ultimate example of seeing value where everyone else sees a problem. Tree number 14. Curry leaf tree. The culinary secret worth its weight in saffron. And here we are at number 14. The tree I saved for last because when most people hear the name they think of a spice blend in a grocery store packet. They don't think of a living tree that produces fresh leaves so flavorful, so irreplaceable in South Indian and Sri Lankan cooking, that restaurants will sign supply contracts to guarantee access to them. Moringa koenigi, the curry leaf tree, produces fresh leaves that sell for $20 to $40 per pound. Dried leaves command even higher prices in some specialty markets. And here is the critical detail that makes this tree so extraordinary as a business opportunity. Dried curry leaves are a pale shadow of fresh ones. Any cook who knows South Indian food understands this immediately. The volatile aromatic compounds that make fresh curry leaves transformative in a dish disappear almost entirely when the leaf is dried. That means the market for fresh curry leaves is local by necessity. You cannot import freshness from across an ocean. The restaurant down the road serving authentic South Indian food cannot get what it needs from a supplier in Chennai. It needs a local grower. And right now, in most of North America, that local grower does not exist. The South Asian diaspora community in the United States and Canada is enormous and growing. The demand for authentic ingredients in home cooking is intense and deeply cultural. These are not casual buyers browsing a farmer's market on a Saturday morning. These are passionate cooks who will drive 40 minutes and pay premium prices for fresh curry leaves because nothing else will do. Curry leaf trees are compact, productive, and can be grown in containers in colder climates, overwintered indoors, and moved outside during warm months to maximize production. A small collection of well-managed trees in a greenhouse or sunroom can supply a meaningful customer base and generate income that would surprise most people who've never considered the crop. Think of curry leaf as the tree that proves the most powerful niche markets are built not on mass appeal, but on passionate, culturally rooted demand that will never ever go away. Now here's what I want you to sit with for a moment. We just walked through 14 trees. 14 different paths to long-term, compounding passive income from land. And what's remarkable is how different each one is. Some pay you within months. Some build value for decades before the biggest payday arrives. Some serve chefs. Some serve supplement companies. Some serve industries most farmers have never even thought about approaching. But they all share one fundamental truth. The most profitable trees are almost never the ones growing in the field next door. They're the ones growing in the knowledge gap between what most farmers know and what the market actually needs. And that gap, that beautiful, profitable gap, is exactly where you want to be positioned. Before we get to the final section, drop a comment right now and tell me which tree surprised you the most. Was it the Agarwood, with its almost unbelievable price per kilogram? Was it the Pawpaw hiding in American forests for centuries? Was it the curry leaf tree serving a market most farmers don't even know exists? I want to hear from you. And if this video is opening your eyes to what's possible, smash that like button right now. It costs you nothing, and it helps more people find this information. Now, before we talk about how to actually turn this knowledge into action, I want to address the question that's probably forming in your mind right now. This all sounds incredible, but where do I actually start? Because information without a path forward is just entertainment. And I don't want to entertain you. I want to change how you think about land, about time, and about what building real wealth actually looks like. So let's talk about the framework that separates the people who watch videos like this and do nothing from the people who watch videos like this and build something extraordinary. The first thing you need to understand is that tree farming is not farming in the traditional sense. Traditional farming is a treadmill. You plant, you harvest, you sell, you replant. Every year you start over. Every year your income depends entirely on that year's effort and that year's conditions. It's exhausting, it's fragile, and it's why most farmers never build lasting wealth no matter how hard they work. Tree farming is fundamentally different. Every year a tree grows, it becomes more valuable. Every year a tree matures, it produces more abundantly. You're not starting over each season. You're building on everything that came before. The effort you put in during year 1 compounds silently through year 5, year 10, year 20. You're not running a treadmill. You're building a staircase. And here's the mindset shift that unlocks everything else. You don't need to grow all 14 trees on this list. You don't need hundreds of acres. You don't need massive capital investment or agricultural expertise going back generations. What you need is to pick one tree that fits your climate, your land, and your market access, go deep on that single species, and plant it with the confidence that time is now working for you instead of against you. The farmers and landowners who are quietly getting rich from specialty trees didn't find some secret nobody else could access. They simply decided to think in decades instead of seasons. They planted something most people walked past without noticing. And then they let time do what time does to a well-chosen tree. It made it worth more. Now let's talk about market access, because this is where most people get stuck. They imagine growing something extraordinary and then standing in a field wondering how to sell it. The reality is far simpler than that fear suggests. Chefs are the easiest first customers for almost anything on this list. A single relationship with an executive chef at a farm-to-table restaurant can absorb more product than a beginning grower can produce, and will pay prices that wholesale markets never touch. Chefs want stories. They want provenance. They want to tell their customers where the ingredient came from and why it's special. You're not just selling a product. You're selling a narrative that makes their menu more interesting and their restaurant more distinctive. Supplement and wellness companies are the second channel worth understanding. They're not buying at farmers' market prices. They're buying at contract prices for consistent, certified, traceable supply. Getting into that channel requires more documentation and more consistency, but the volume and the price stability it provides can turn a small tree operation into a genuinely serious business. Direct-to-consumer sales through farmers' markets, community-supported agriculture subscriptions, and online platforms represent the third channel. The margins here are the highest of all because you're eliminating every middleman between your tree and the person who ultimately values what it produces. A jar of elderberry syrup that costs you $2 to produce sells for $30 to a customer who buys it every single month without fail. The beautiful architecture of a well-designed tree farm is that you can serve all three channels simultaneously with different products from the same trees. The leaves go to restaurants. The extract goes to supplement companies. The finished product goes directly to consumers. 3 revenue streams. 1 set of trees. 1 piece of land. And speaking of land, let's destroy one more myth before we close. You do not need a farm to start. Several trees on this list, Kaffir lime, curry leaf, Moringa, can be grown productively in large containers on a patio, in a greenhouse, or in a sunroom. People are generating meaningful supplemental income from urban and suburban settings with nothing more than a few well-chosen trees and a direct relationship with local restaurants and farmers markets. The entry point is lower than you think. The timeline is longer than most people are comfortable with, and that discomfort is exactly what creates the opportunity. Because the moment something requires patience, 90% of the people who were interested walk away. They go back to looking for something faster, something easier, something that pays off before they've had time to doubt themselves. And that's where you want to be, on the other side of that patience threshold. In the 10% who understood that the best returns in agriculture, like the best returns in any investment, go to the people willing to plant something today that won't fully pay off until tomorrow. The trees on this list are not get-rich-quick schemes. They are get-rich slowly, get-rich permanently, get-rich in a way that compounds across generations strategies dressed up in bark and leaves and the quiet patience of something rooted deeply in the ground. Plant one. Learn everything about it. Build your first market relationship. Harvest your first crop, however small it is. Because that first harvest from a tree you planted yourself is not just income. It's proof. Proof that the model works. Proof that the patience paid off. Proof that you made a decision most people weren't willing to make, and the land rewarded you for it. And then you plant another one. That's how this works. That's how it has always worked for the people who figured it out. Not all at once. Not with a massive plan and a massive investment. One tree, one market, one harvest, and then again, and then again. All right. If you made it this far, you now understand something that most landowners, most farmers, and most people thinking about financial independence have never seriously considered. The most powerful wealth-building tool available to anyone with a piece of ground is not a commodity crop competing on price. It's a rare, high-value tree serving a passionate market with a product that cannot be easily replicated or imported without losing everything that makes it worth buying. 14 trees. 14 paths. One fundamental principle. Plant once. Profit for decades. Here's what I need you to do right now. First, smash that like button if this video shifted how you think about trees, land, and long-term wealth. Second, drop a comment and tell me which tree you're planting first. I read every single comment and I genuinely want to know what you're building. Third, if you haven't subscribed yet, hit that subscribe button and ring that notification bell right now. Because we have videos coming on exactly how to grow each of these trees, how to find your first buyers, how to price your products, and how to turn a single planted tree into a real income stream. We're building a community here of people who think in decades, who see value where others see scenery, and who understand that the best time to plant a tree was 20 years ago and the second best time is today. This is Golden Grove Vault. Stay patient, stay planted, and I'll see you in the next one.